for our murder media artifacts, we focused on teaching our interviewees the tropes about DeQuincy, his views surrounding murder, everything that he said creates a perfect murder, and explaining how, in his eyes, murder can be artistic. We made sure to tell our interviewees about his thoughts about the victim, how the victim should be someone that's younger, full of life, how the victim should be killed in a way that's very dramatic and bloody rather than like poison or strangulation. We made sure to include the fact that the suspect should be someone who is, if they're closer to the victim, it makes for a better story, he said. And I think something along the lines of the suspect can't be like someone that's like in super good standing or someone that's like a complete criminal.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, yes, we explained these to our interviewees and gauged their interests on what DeQuincy said and how they feel about murder in general.
So we're doing this project to kind of explore how murder media shows up in the everyday lives of college students. We just wanted to see like how they're viewing it, what they're seeing, what they like. Then we asked them a question to see how they view murder. We asked them kind of like what their perfect murder would be. So we're just seeing how they view murder and analyze them.
Collect our data. We went around and asked college students their views on the perfect murder story, just so we can gain insight as to how they perceive murder media.
We also made sure to include a couple leading questions to figure out exactly how they're engaging in murder media, what their favorite types of murder media is, and then leading back to DeQuincy at the end to make sure that they were able to learn something from it.
We asked our interviewees what their favorite murder media genre was.
My favorite murder genre is probably like mystery or fantasy.
Psychological.
Psychological.
Really, really gory and like messed up.
Definitely have to say like the gore, like the psychological, like the Saw franchises. I would say it does it perfectly.
Psychological. Yeah.
Probably fantasy.
Okay, cool. Would you say it's more like on the like cartoonish fiction side, or like maybe storybooks or
Storybooks for sure, yeah.
Romance ones that like where someone kills someone for their lover, or also like when they kill their lover. I know that sounds psychotic, but like it's interesting to
me. Slasher films like Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Scream. I love Scream, but like the cheap, easy horror.
Psychological, because I really like the Saw movies and how the villain sort of thought out all of his murders, had like a reason behind them.
I like horror and psychological. What is your explanation of a perfect murder?
I would say my perfect murder story would be like a man in his like late 30s, early 40s. I'm gonna say he has 2 kids, but like he's not really in their lives and he's not really doing what a father's supposed to do. He's not paying his child support. He's not really doing much. Oh, I feel like when it's a man and like since like I'm a woman killing him, he wouldn't expect it from me. So I'd say something like it'll be nighttime. We'll be in a parking lot and I'll be like, hey, can you help me with my groceries? And then I'll do the thing where you know that they put like that substance in like a tissue or something like that to like drug them. Like, you know how they do that? I'll do that to him and I'll put it like somewhere where when he touches or like opens the trunk or the door or something like that, then he has that. So then it makes it easier for me to be able to, you know, like handle him because he's probably like a bigger man. But yeah, so I'll push him into the trunk and then close the trunk, obviously. And then I'll drive to like a more like deserted location where I know people won't be. Like, the way I would kill him, like I don't want something that leaves like a lot of fingerprints or anything like that. So maybe I would do like a fire. He'll be in pain, obviously, but like it's less effort for me instead of, you know, like repeatedly hitting him with something. Like it's just fire is kind of a one and done. He suffers, but yeah. I would kill somebody that has no real significance to pretty much anybody else's lives. So it would probably be a homeless person who's just been there for a long time. Like if he's been chilling on the corner for 13 years begging for the same cash, I would kill him. So what I would do is I lure him in. It's gonna be a man, like a helplessly older man. So I would lure him in to like to my house because I feel like he wouldn't pass that up.
So now I take him to my house, and so he's gonna be oblivious. So what I'm gonna do is I don't think I could ever stab anybody. I'd probably just shoot him in the back of the head because I feel like that's like less intense. It's just easier.
It sounds really messed up, but I'm gonna say, preferably someone that's like about to die, so it's less on my moral conscience. I'd probably shoot him in the head, because then there's no like, you can't get it back to me, and I'd like the gun, I would melt it down. I'd melt all the bullets, and the person, I don't want it being tracked to me. Like chop them up in little tiny pieces, put them in a bag filled with like center blocks, go out as deep as I could, and drop it as like chum as I was fishing. Now I would just be fishing, and I'd go about my day.
So probably my perfect murder would be someone who has wronged me or my family, track them down before the police can, and just inflict the most torturous, most horrific, drag it out, make it painful, like, I don't know, skin them alive in lemon juice. You know how much a paper cut hurts and if you squeeze lemon? Skin them alive and just citrus all over them. I probably wouldn't worry about covering up the evidence.
You want to get caught.
Well, I guess I wouldn't really be caught, but maybe do it somewhere so far out, what evidence is going to still be there?
I'd pick someone that I'm close to, and I would like try and catch him by surprise, obviously, but definitely I'd use a knife. Like 100%, I'm stabbing them like 100 times at least.
Is there any reason behind that particularly?
I have a lot of dreams about stabbing people or getting stabbed, so I just want to live the reality of it sometimes.
Interesting. Another leading question off of that one. How do you think you would get away with it?
I'd set someone else up. Like, as long as I have someone close enough to me, I could definitely find a way to blame it on someone I don't like that's still close to us.
I got you.
Like,
I got you.
I'd murder my mom and blame it on my dad and get away with it for sure.
Right. Yeah, that would make sense. There's a lot of, you could play with that easily.
I would kill my ex before he would kill me. I think I would probably set it up like a suicide or like, hang him or like slit his wrist or something. And to get away with it, I would just play, the victim because he was abusive and stuff like that. So I feel like I could get away with it. And yeah, just I would like leading up, make it seem like he's going like more mentally down just so it seems more believable,
I see that. Yeah.
Not that I've thought about this.
Anything that Dexter does, you get the little needle, inject him in the neck, and then you set up like a little murder room, get him with tape so that way it doesn't leave markings on the body, and then you set up the plastic sheets around the wall. You basically show them why you're killing him, and then chop them up into little bits and pieces, throw them in the Gulf Stream, and then they're out to the sea. Never get caught.
So what kind of people does he murder?
People that deserve to die, typically. Like, murder in general is wrong, but like if you're gonna kill anybody, it'd probably be like pedophiles and other murderers. I mean, people that is like a net positive to die.
There's a scene in The Walking Dead that I think makes the perfect murder. They cut this guy's leg off and then wait until he wakes up because obviously he passes out after they cut his leg off. They wait until he wakes up and then they're sitting around a fire and they're eating his leg. So it's like it's like psychological because like it just messes with their head because they're just eating him.
Do you agree with DeQuincy's explanation of a perfect murder?
Yes and no.
Okay. Why? Yes or no?
Yes, because like it makes it more interesting to have a gory story. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also more interesting if the person has more importance.
I don't, because I feel like, well, his idea of like a good person is very subjective. I think that like the way I would view what a good person is something how somebody else would view that differently. So I feel like there really is no like actual right answer of like what a perfect murder is. I think it just really depends, the circumstances, the situation, the person who did it. It really just depends. So no, I don't think he's right.
I disagree with his because I think, even though it's like the perfect murder, Like, I think every scenario is different and each person is different. So, from the murderer's perspective, it's easier, but for the victim's perspective, I feel like obviously they're the victim, but like, maybe someone did deserve it. I don't know. I say I disagree though.
Yeah, I agree with his. It's a pretty solid perfect murder.
I still think that is pretty good.
Yeah.
As much terror upon as many people as possible would be pretty good.
I do.
You do?
I do.
Why is that?
I think you just got it right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think so. Because if you're gonna murder someone that's already old and gonna die soon, what's the point of it? They're gonna die anyways. Got to take someone's life that has meaning.
That's true.
I would say yeah, honestly, because I feel like if I'm gonna watch or like read about a good murder, I want it to be something like interesting. Like I know old people, they die all the time, and that isn't as interesting. Like maybe there's like a huge inheritance with it, right? But like I definitely agree, yeah, that like it has to be kind of interesting or like really bloody, really gory, or yeah, it's not a good murder mystery.
To an extent, I think the idea of going after normal people is smart, but like the idea about it has to be gory and like bloody, I don't think makes a whole lot of sense, because I think that's because then people can like you can be psychoanalyzed, you can be like you leave a trace. Like when you're like bashing somebody, you could leave sweat marks somewhere, you could leave hair follicles. So I think there's a lot of room for error. So I think the way Dexter does it is like the less mess the better.
I don't think so. I like the gore and everything, but having to relate to someone for you to be able to murder them is kind of crazy to me, because I could go out there and murder anyone.
My interviews, they really did impress me and also scare me a little bit just by the answers that were given. So I had 2 common murder media genres out of the 3 that I asked my interviewees. Gory and psychological, I saw that those were the most frequent, especially not just in mine, but just like in today's world. Their murders that they described, they were very, very brutal. And I noticed that a lot of the like ways they were going about their own perfect murder were things that I would see in like a movie or I have seen in a movie. So I found it really interesting that maybe murder media today is like forming like this creativity in others' brains, so then they will go off of that and make it their own creative aspect, I guess you would say. So out of my 3 interviewees that I interviewed, 2 of them believed that throwing the corpse in the water and the current taking it away was the best way. One said that they would chop them up in little pieces and then throw their remains as like chum, but they would put them in these like garbage bags with cinder blocks in them, and then obviously the current would take them away in the ocean. And then the other one said they would put them in the Chesapeake Bay, and obviously the current will take that body away as well. The other one just did not think he had to cover up the evidence at all. He just thought that if he went far out enough, he didn't really care if he got caught, to be honest, because he was going for a more personal murder. So he was like, you know what? I did my job. So what if I get caught? All of my interviews, they did agree with DeQuincy's doings. They really agreed with how if you inflict a lot of terror on as many people as possible, that would be very important. But it was interesting because the guy that said that is the one that didn't matter if he got caught. So like the mystery of it was kind of, if he did get caught, the mystery was kind of like dead. There was no mystery. There is a motive. There is a killer that was caught. So I found that really interesting.
When interviewing my 3 volunteers, the common genre between the 3 were psychological, with one answering fantasy. They all chose like a less brutal way to kill her victims. With one, she said that she would shoot her victim. The other volunteer said that she would burn her victim alive. And then the only guy said that he would just push his victim into like the water and have alligators eat them. But it seems as if they didn't want to get their like hands dirty with how they killed their victims. Like they wouldn't take like time while committing to the murder, if that makes sense. They all chose isolated places to kill their victims, to like hide their crimes. And the common traits of their victims were that they were people of less importance, or people who just seemed as if they had no purpose in life, like a homeless man, or a man who isn't a good father or a good husband, and one being a man that isn't really enjoying his life. Like he doesn't like his job. He feels as if he serves no purpose in the world. They all seem to disagree with DeQuincy's view of the perfect victim, saying that the victim could be someone of importance, and then someone who has done no wrong shouldn't be the victim. It was commonly seen that like bad people deserve to be killed rather than like an innocent person. So like in a way, if in their way, the perfect murder story should be serving justice to society.
So in analyzing the answers that my interviewees gave me, two common themes of murder media were psychological and horror. The people that described liking the psychological genre liked the mind games that were played with the victims, and horror films are very common for people. It's a lot of people's favorite genre of movies in general, so that's a very popular way for people to consume murder media, so that answer was not very surprising to me. When asked about their perfect murder, two of my interviewees gave me examples of murder that they've seen in films. So like maybe like, oh, I saw in this movie this guy did this, and they were like, that's what I would do, instead of coming up with their own way to murder someone. Two of them chose poison or an injection to kill instead of being gory, which is different than DeQuincy's description of a perfect murder. All of my interviewees did not fully agree with DeQuincy's version of a perfect murder. Two didn't see the need for all the gore. They thought that there's no point to it because it's easier to trace back to them and it's just too messy to cover up. One of them did, however, agree with the gore part, and they all seem to agree on the victim not being a celebrity. They mostly said that they think the victim should be, in their quotes, someone who deserves to die, such as pedophiles, rapists, other murderers.
Okay. I was able to draw a couple of different conclusions from the two interviews that I conducted. The two main things that I saw was the difference in the type of media that the two girls had watched, like based on what their favorite type of genre of murder mystery was. Like, for example, Jasmine said that she was more on the like fantasy side of murder mystery, so that gave me more like anime, maybe more superhero movies and things along that nature. But Faith said that she was more interested in the romance side of murder mystery, more of like the lovers killing each other and like just anything that involves love and murder. What I also found interesting is that I'm assuming that since they both like have picked these different genres of romance and fantasy, their ideal murders, like because our second leading question was, what is your ideal murder, or how would you carry out your ideal murder? Jasmine, who, like I said, said that her favorite genre was fantasy, she said that she would pick someone she's close to and stab them and make them bleed a lot, which was very different from Faith's ideal murder, because her thing was that she would kill her ex, and she had a emotional connection tied to her ideal murder. Like, she was saying how she would just kill her ex to get back at him and to like keep herself safe out of a self-defense type of thing. Jasmine was a little bit more unhinged, which was more focused on like just stabbing someone that she's close to just to make them bleed and just to hurt them. I think that aligns with the fantasy genre of murder mystery, which is in Faith's explanation of her ideal murder also aligned with her favorite genre, as in like the wanting to kill her ex, and the whole self-defense is usually a common trope that plays into romance murder. What I also found interesting was the fact that since both of their opinions and views on murder were so different, and not the genre, but the media that they view murder in is so different, their ideas, or the way that DeQuincy would have thought about their ideas would be very different. They both said that they agreed with all of DeQuincy's tropes, with the victim being younger and the murder being very bloody and gory, and all the other tropes that he had mentioned. Jasmine said, like I said, she agreed with the whole the bloodier the better, like more blood, it gives it more art and more, like adds more layers to it, and the killing someone close to her, she agreed with the fact that that would make the story better than if she had killed like a stranger or something. Faith on the other side, though, even though she agreed with DeQuincy's tropes, she said that her answers, like I said, were more tied to the romance and self-defense. And she said that she didn't include any type of blood or like actual physical harm when talking about how she would commit her murder. She just said that she would either poison her ex or hang him or make it look like a suicide or something. Like, it was just very interesting to see the difference in how they view murder, how they internally visualize it and ponder on it, and how that's reflected throughout their words versus DeQuincy's words.